Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Welcome to today's upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we? Alright guys, I have one hell of an upload for you today. I've been deep diving, as many of you know, but before we get into it, one thing, and I don't know why I let this bother me. There was a comment I had seen, and this guy, I'm not even going to call him a gentleman, because, you know, in the intro and outro, I talk about respect for you guys and for myself. And the guy's like, I don't know why he doesn't do more interviews. He should make these people come on, and he's a terrible narrator. Well, on some of them, I'm not narrating. I'm jotting notes as I'm talking to these people because they don't want to type it out. You know, on other times I am narrating. But here's the thing. I have 3 audiobooks that were narrated and produced that sell. So I must be a fairly decent narrator to have those audiobooks. And the author asked me to do a larger, like kind of a compiled version of all 3 of those books. So I don't understand why people have to be like this. And if you're going to be like that, just don't comment. Or don't listen. You know, there's plenty of other channels that narrate AI garbage that claim it's real, you know? So just don't. And we'll be fine, you know? I have no issues with anybody. Now, on to what I want to talk to you guys about. I have been deep diving and I've been talking about 100,000 subs. I'm going to kind of stick with Dogman and do something kind of on the fringe. I'm already there. I'm already doing it. I was talking to somebody today, and I realized that I talk about the deep underground facilities, the Luciferian agenda, the connections, almost every day. So I don't know why I don't know why I had to say that, but I'm here, and this is what I want to do. I want to look at those connections. I want to continue to deep dive. Today's upload, we are going to go into some very fascinating and very, very traumatic information that actually, and I say traumatic because the person, the whistleblower who shared this information has since passed at 48 years old, was a doctor of education, was abducted, shared her information. Not only did she risk her life, but she risked her standing in the community of her fellow educators and fellow people in her field and such. You know, in the information that she shared and put out is just, it's mind numbing is what it is. It literally, it makes you go, whoa. So let's get into it. I quickly apologize. I said education. I meant ethics. So I do apologize. Dr. Carla Turner focused on psychology and ethics of those alleging that they had been abducted, visited, probed, and tormented by extraterrestrials. I'm going to share with you who she was. So not only was she brilliant, but she really she passed away of cancer in 1996 after being threatened for her work. She was just 48 years old, my age. And she really wanted to let everyone know exactly what was going on out there. She focused on psychology and ethics of those alleging that they had been abducted, visited, and probed, tormented by extraterrestrial beings. As a former college instructor who held a doctorate in Old English Studies as well as a BA and MA, earned in both American and England respectively, Turner gave her heart and soul to help those trying to make sense of the things that did not make sense. Dr. Turner lost her battle to breast cancer in 1996, but her legacy to the paranormal field is all but not forgotten. So that is who we are going to look at some of her work right now, and some more, actually, a lot more. And well, this is pretty intense, and like I said, it's mind-numbing if you really just take a chance and think about this. And I know all of you will, because you guys are just like I am. The people that watch this channel daily just want to hear and grasp so much more than what is being fed to us on modern news, YouTube AI channels that claim they are, real or whatever. There's too many AI channels that are ruining this field, and I think people need to address it. People who have been doing this research and work like I have, and I'm not gonna name anybody because I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I think, well, I can. I name one person, Jimmy Petnito. He really feels the same way I do. And I'm sure there's others out there. So let's get into it. Keynote. Dr. Carla Turner was a dedicated and compassionate woman who helped many abductees come to terms with their abusive alien experiences, and was not afraid to tell the truth, no matter how bizarre it may be or sounded. Carla has appeared on the Montel Williams Show and other programs to discuss her research. She passed away as a result of a particularly deadly form of terminal cancer. She will be missed. Some suspect that her cancer was induced via radiation received from abductions, but this cannot be confirmed. This is rather extensive interview that I am going to share with you guys right now with a lot of amazing information. Question. You are widely regarded as one of the leading experts in the field of UFO and alien abduction research. How did you get started in the study of these things? Carla. Our family knew nothing about the phenomena when we started having UFO sightings and abduction encounters. Being a researcher, I turned to the UFO literature for an explanation. When I absorbed what was available, I found no answers that I felt were trustworthy. I decided that this was a crucial situation for my family, if not globally, and the only way I could get answers was to do the research myself. The only way to do the research in this case was to go into the field and deal with the abduction cases. Was Into the Fringe the result of this? That was her first book she wrote. Actually, Into the Fringe was not a result of research to gain answers. It was more of an account of my family's awakening to and coping with these experiences during the first year and a half, when they were very intense. It was not until after that that I started to branch out and work with other people. I worked with Barbara Bartholic on our case and began working with her other cases. Many times she would come to Texas, where I lived at the time, and we would set up a 4 to 5 day work session, during which people in the area who wanted to work with her would come to my house. She would interview them and place them under regressive hypnosis there. I began to learn by acting as her assistant. We've been finding in a lot of cases, the experiencer's parents, sometimes their great-grandparents, have had the same type of encounters that they have. Is that what you found in your family, Carla? Yeah, definitely. Transgenerational. In Elton's family, Elton, Dr. Turner's husband, this is a pseudonym given Casey in the book, Into the Fringe and Taken. They no longer feel it's necessary to protect his identity. Before Elton's grandmother passed in 90 and 91, the family knew she was near the end of her time, so they asked her to tell some old experiences and videotaped her response for posterity. My mother refuses to say anything because it is just too frightening for her. She has not yet even finished reading my book, Into the Fringe. Each time she reads a page or two, she becomes so upset that she cannot go any further, which tells me that there is probably a reason for her feelings. I remember that in 1965, when I was a senior in high school, a big flap was making national news. It was one of the few times that I had ever paid attention to the UFO thing. One day, my mother and I were listening to the TV while doing something in the kitchen. Walter Cronkite was talking about the UFO flap, and I told my mother that if a UFO landed in the backyard, I would probably go and get in it. My mother, who was extremely gentle, who has never raised her voice nor hit me, stopped what she was doing, grabbed me by both of my shoulders, and shook me until I felt like my teeth were going to fall out. All the while, she was saying forcefully, "You swear to me you will never, ever, ever get near one. Don't you dare even say that." It was the only outburst I have ever known my mother to have in my entire life. I now know from my research that extreme response like that to this phenomenon are often indicators that the person has had their own experiences. Question. You mentioned the use of hypnosis, which has been the subject of a lot of controversy. Some of the other researchers have said that people under hypnosis can come up with scenarios that did not happen in order to please the hypnotist. Some have said that multiple levels of experiences, where one can break through screen memories and ferret out buried memories that are different, are articles of the process of hypnosis. What is your opinion about those issues? Carla. I think those positions are completely unattainable. They grow out of what I call armchair research. I don't conceive you will find them being imposed to anyone who has actually had an experience. If they have been through them and want to come back and talk about what happened when they undergo hypnosis, to look at what they consciously remember, then we can have a dialogue. Right now, they are speaking without knowledge. They are speaking hypothetically, and their opinions are based on erroneous understandings of the phenomena, of the experiences, and of the control exerted upon abductees during their experiences. It's easy to philosophize any number of explanations, but that does not mean that these explanations have any relationship to what really is going on. Also, There are bad hypnotists and good hypnotists. A bad hypnotist probably can follow up a number of things. I know that people who have gone to a hypnotist for smoking or dietary problems have sometimes suffered more after hypnosis. Obviously, some things can be mishandled, but my experience with hypnosis and the veracity of what is recalled has, in several cases, been proven to me to be accurate. I've been able to investigate these cases. At times, erroneous material does surface or is created because of a situation, but that is not typical. I conclude that hypnosis is, by and large, one of the most excellent tools that we have. Used properly, it may be the only tool we have to get certain pieces of information or levels of information back up to the conscious state. I've been able to test a number of recalled memories against external evidence, and they have proven to be correct. Question. You have found, have you not, that sometimes there are multiple levels, like layers of an onion? An experiencer undergoes hypnosis and comes up with a scenario. Then, when he or she is regressed into a deeper level, they break through the first level. You found out what the screen memory is, and different scenario emerges. Answer, yes. And it seems to me that in some cases a bottom level can be reached. Question, how many layers are there? How deep can you go? And what's at the bottom? Answer, we have not done enough research to answer any of these questions without being an armchair philosopher. Typically, not always. The first recall deals mostly with conscious information. When a subject is taken to the next deeper level of the trance state and asked to focus, often what will be reported is that what was seen was not the same as the conscious recall. Then a grouping process begins. The subject thinks, this is inaccurate. I feel that something is wrong. And when I focus, I see that it was not what I thought it was. That is a transitional level. There may be only a couple of levels as opposed to, say, 20. But there certainly is a cover level underlined by a more solid foundation. If the subjects are helped to program their mental computers to penetrate illusion and to speak only truthful, accurate statements, to, as Barbara has said, clarify vision, then they will recall radically different scenarios, not expanded versions of the first scenario, but something quite different from what their conscious memories had left them with. There are at least 2 levels, possibly 3. Question. People have told us that they can break through screen memory after screen memory until they get to a scenario involving reptilians. And that is as far as they go. Have you found that to be the case? Answer. In a few cases that I am very familiar with, when the baseline was reached, reptilians are involved. Question. Are grays always involved in the top level? Answer. Sometimes the first level involves gray, sometimes humans, sometimes Pleiadians, sometimes strange animals, meaning Chimera, Dogman, Bigfoot, and others. Abductees tell stories seeing beings, angelic Nordics, for example, and then when they concentrate and try to focus on these memories of those beings, they disappear, and behind them is a reptilian. I am not familiar with a number of cases. Answer. I am not familiar with a number of cases. I have heard other researchers talk about the same thing. In one case that I recount in Into the Fringe, James had mostly conscious recollections and almost no hypnosis. He remembered being drawn into the proximity of a beautiful Pleiadian woman who was very alluring and tender. and almost seductive. She wanted him to come into her embrace. When he got into the embrace and thought she was going to kiss him, she disappeared entirely, and what was left in her place was a purplish black, bumpy, almost slimy looking character with fairy, asymmetrical features. I've encountered this type of creature in a couple of other encounters. The entity is very strong. Instead of embracing James, the creature threw him down to the ground, shoved a 2-foot long tube down his throat into his stomach, and pulled up stomach juices. The next day he still had the bile taste. That interior of his throat was sore, and he discovered claw marks around both sides of his neck, where he had been held down. Whatever that entity was, there was something claw-like about it, which, of course, matches reptilians and other creatures, maybe as close as he was to it. He could not perceive the whole figure, but he could see a bumpy covering, which could equate to rough, scaly exterior sometimes reported by reptilians. It is described as bumpy, rigid, bony, strong, clawed. Question. Apparently, these beings have the ability to project different images. Answer. Some say that they transform, that they mutate or change their own real forms. I don't accept that as accurate. I do believe they really look like a blonde, and they do something to trick you, and then they suddenly look like a reptilian. I think that what they alter is human perception. They certainly can project false images, just as Ted Rice's grandmother, was shown her dead husband so that she would consent to an encounter. Ted's grandfather had been dead for 6 years, and in the middle of having the encounter with what she thought was her restored husband, that image disappeared. I suppose because the aliens wanted to get the emotional juices from her, and she saw a reptoid atop. We also have heard experiences about military people being present during abductions, and when they focus on them, they change. Bud Hopkins tells an experience about a person who had seen a military policeman. He wondered why on earth the MP was there and tried to focus very carefully on him. When he did so, that military police officer changed before his eyes into an officer of high rank, and then into a Nazi officer. Under regressive hypnosis, Barney Hill, who, along with his wife Betty, claimed to have been abducted by Reptilian and Gray from Zeta, also reported seeing German Nazi military officer on the craft working with the aliens. This is suggestive that the CIA more or less inherited the alien collaboration agenda that is initiated by the Bavarians in or around 1933. The aliens cannot allow us to be involved with them in our normal state of mind because we would be under our own control, and that is not what they desire. Here's some further statements from Carla on the subjects that are just, and I have more of something else that we're going to dive into too, so it's not just Carla's information, but, she talking about going under hypnosis. People have seen dogmen aboard these ships and other things. There's a experience where a family was having dinner in Florida, I believe. They're having dinner. It's a beautiful night, and outside of their picture window in their living room, they're in their dining room, so they can see into the living room. It's a nighttime setting. Bright light, like the sun is out, and they go out into the front porch and they look down the road where this bright light is, and what they see are dogmen coming off of the ship, or creatures that look like a bipedal dog. and if you heard my really in-depth video on the cynocephaly, I truly believe that they were, just like when the gray and reptilian landed here, or not landed, came through a portal. I do not believe that they landed. I think they used portals to get here. And I think they can fly through our atmosphere. But when they came to Earth, they were seeking something other than control, human control. They more or less wanted to, my theory is get away from it all. Then people called them the cynocephaly after years of trading and bartering with humans. They were treated very badly, and there was, battles that had happened. Just like in Them and Us, when Danny Vinderman, he talks about how Neanderthal eventually, they hunted humans through a certain period of time, and then all of a sudden it bottlenecked, our race bottlenecked, it came very close to extinction, and then some way, somehow, we started to hunt the Neanderthal and wiped them out. So these cynocephaly, or alien canine-like creatures, proceeded to go into the mountains deeper. They talk about India and stuff like that. And then eventually they started to not want to do anything with humans, not even trade with them, but torment them, hunt them. So very, very interesting. Dracos need emotional energy as food. Evidently, a body that has a soul energy in it, one that absorbs certain kind of emotional energy, is more nutritious than a flat body that has not been through the life process. Let's say that an 8 or 9-year-old, you have lived some already, and you have some emotional storage going on already. If they took your nutrients, yummy body, for their use, they put your soul material into a cloned body that has not had life experience. Then they can let you go through several more years in that body and build up emotional energy in it. Then it will be ready for them to consume, and they can continue the process again for many times. Psychic vampires and induced emotional trauma abductees are put through other kinds of programming and compulsions. The only commonality that you can see in all of them so far is that they all cause great upheaval and produce great amounts of emotional energy, and maybe tastier bodies, but certainly immediate energy production. Now, on a live stream, someone had brought up vampires, and I believe that I do possibly believe, if you look at the Dracula, let's say Dracula or whatever, a vampiric creature, it supposedly has the ability to fly, has the ability to kind of cast this mysterious whatever onto people. And, so here's my thought. And they suck blood. I don't believe that they suck blood. I believe what people see is what they want those people to see, right? I believe that the flight or turning into a bat is quite possibly a real Draco. Draconian is different than a Draco. Dragon, is winged. Draconian, more bipedal human, still reptilian. So there's that kind of tie-in, but then you have the weird complexion. this whitish, greenish, kind of gray reptilian creature would be that color, right? And then the energy, the vampirism on the energy would drain you, just like that's your life. Essentially, your soul in life, in energy, is your blood. So you're drained. So, and then I think that's what they want us to perceive, not mainstream, but the creatures as they are doing this. A theory. Once again, we are talking about a science based on theories. And to me, that theory makes a lot more sense than some dude in a cape, hunting people, turning into a bat, sucking blood, but it just, like she said, in many, they can put what we want into our head. They put what they want into our heads. And I talked a lot about this on a live stream, and I did an upload about it. And I encourage people to research, not just watch YouTube in, how she says, armchair researcher. No, research. Look up this inorganic beings. The University of Hawaii, beautiful thesis on inorganic beings. And it talks about these dimensional creatures that feed off of our emotions. They love it, and they will cast what we are fearing, or what we presume to be afraid of, or what they presume us to be afraid of. They put that into so let's say I'm walking through the woods. I don't like crawlers. I am terrified of crawlers. I don't ever want to see a crawler. I've had some pretty crazy experiences in my life. But if I saw a crawler, I think that would be it. I think I would probably urinate myself and run like hell and hope that I got away. I had two things trailing me one time when I was up where Tom Mezek disappeared. And to be honest with you, and I never thought about this until right now, sharing this with you. As I'm walking out of the woods, I'm walking towards, I'm deeper on Lily Pond Trail. And I kind of get to this area where I get a really bad, creepy feeling. I call it a kill zone. There's a kill zone there where you are in this kill zone. The high, everything up there has the higher advantage. You are freaking centered down. You look up and there's just woods above you, 30 to 50 feet. So you have the disadvantage. You don't have the high ground. And I get to about that place, right? And I turn around because something fell off. And I'm walking down the trail and I'm ignoring this. And this is before I even started going with a firearm. I'm ignoring what is going on. I'm thinking about, I got to drive an hour and 10 minutes to get home. I got to see my daughter. And there are two sets of footprints tracking me on both sides of the trail. And for some reason, the only thing that came to my mind was the creature, the crawler, not Dogman. And at that point in my research, I thought that all missing 411s were caused by Dogman or Bigfoot. I didn't even put together portals or anything. So we're talking a couple years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And all I thought about was crawlers. Holy shit, I think there's 2 crawlers behind me walking. And when I got to Lily Pond parking area is when I heard them break off and go back the way they came. That, in my eyes, would be possibly an inorganic being using that, or who knows. So that was psychic vampires. how the aliens might control leaders. Personally, I believe one can control political leaders more easily with implants. Now, if they wanted to use their own souls, perhaps to inhabit the body of a politician and work full-time through it, that could be done. Perhaps they could simply take the soul out and stick in another soul. They have the ability to retrieve what we call a soul, to store it into a container and put it into another body. They can put it into another body as they wish. I don't believe that. I mean, like I said, there's things that I believe with this theory in her research, but I don't. I don't believe that these creatures, demons don't have souls, and these things are fucking demons. This is my own theory. You don't have to buy my theory. You can buy hers. You know what I mean? Or have your own. That's the whole thing on pseudoscience. I truly believe that these creatures, these alien creatures, are demonic. You know, there's Aleister Crowley, perfect examples, doing ritual sex magic, blood magic, and just pure, you know, hallucinations and such. Summons a creature he calls Lamb or Lem. And what does that creature look like? A alien gray. A spitting image of an alien gray. Bulbous head, you know, except his, I believe, is wearing like kind of this like robe. But you summoned a demon, Crowley. You're talking to a gray, buddy. You know, so that's my own view, my own theory, and that theory is done through research, by looking at something and researching, and that's why I encourage research, because by doing that, my theory, and you know, anyone's theory, by researching it and coming to a conclusion, I believe is a heck of a lot stronger than just, you know, sitting and taking somebody's advice or words. You know, look into that. Look into those words. Don't take it for granted. You know, especially nowadays with all the, you know, real AI stories or whatever. You know, it's just so disheartening. Anyway, back to this. There are some things that I'm not going to talk about just because of YouTube. Any positive ethical ETs. I don't expect there are intelligent forces that can contact or inform us, perhaps to help us help ourselves. I don't understand that. I do expect there are intelligent forces. So yeah, I mean, Nordics have supposedly helped humans. Heck, Brad, perfect example. Brad, his experience with Daniel. Him and his best friend are hunting in the woods, and Dogman, all of a sudden, this, as he would describe it, the most beautiful person he has ever seen, an angelic being, blonde hair, you know, 6 something. And Brad's a big dude. Brad's not a small dude. Like, Brad's a big guy. And this angelic Daniel creature, person, whatever you want to call it, was bigger than him. That could have been a Nordic. I believe that to have been a Nordic or an angel. So if there's good aliens or bad aliens, demons, can't we interpret the good ones, the Nordics, as angelic? Underground alien bases. And I like how they didn't put military or deep. Abductees report seeing other humans in these facilities. being drained of blood, being mutated, flayed, dismembered, or being stacked lifeless like cords of wood. Some abductees have been threatened that they, too, will end up in this condition if they do not cooperate with their alien captors. Abductions. Aliens come into our homes and temporarily remove young children, leaving their distraught parents paralyzed and helpless. In cases where the parent has been able to protest, the aliens insist that the children belong to them. Let me figure out a way of... I'm not going to do this one. Obviously, we know that aliens SA people. So it's not really... I'm not going to go too deep into that one. Just because I don't like going too deep into those. I'll read it personally, but it's a sensitive subject for many people. Painful and terrifying medical procedures. Aliens or demons perform extremely painful experiments or procedures on abductees. Say that these acts are necessary, but giving no explanation why abductees' eyes are painfully removed from the socket, allowing the aliens to scrape the area or implant devices into the area before the eyeball is replaced, for instance. Some abductees are subjected to painful constrictions, often around their head, chest, and extremities. Painful genitalia and anal probes are performed. Prophecies, alien prophecies, so-called alien prophecies. Aliens make predictions of an intimate period of global chaos and destruction. They say that a number of humans and that number varies dramatically from case to case, will be rescued from the planet in order to continue the species either on another planet or back on Earth after the destruction is over. Many abductees report that they don't believe their alien captors and foresee instead a much more sinister use of the rescued humans. Collective hallucination or collective experience. That's a good one. In every instance, from this list, there are multiple reports of unrelated cases confirming that such bizarre details are not the product of a single deranged mind. These details are convincing evidence that, contrary to the claims of many UFO researchers, the abduction experience is not limited to a uniform pattern of events. The phenomena simply cannot be explained exclusively in terms of crossbreeding experiments or scientific research into human physiology. But we already know that there are these experiences going on. I think she just means as like a collective, like one family being... I'm not really... This is an interesting one. Very interesting one. I really liked this one when I read it. Spiritual enlightened. And it becomes clear from these details that these beings who are doing such things cannot be seen as spiritually enlightened, with the best interest of a human race in mind. Something else is going on, something far more painful and frightening. In many abduction encounters, there is a theory current in the ufology research that says abductees who perceive that experiments in a negative way only do so because they find themselves aren't spiritual or psychologically advanced. Person with higher cosmic development or have positive alien encounters. So the theory goes. And those who have painful and frightening experiences are merely spiritual Neanderthals. This is a pet theory of researchers who claim that aliens, whether objectively real or not, serve as mirrors for our spiritual nature in an individual or a species-wide basis. Stryber has voiced this theory, for instance, in Majestic, where he says, "In the eyes of the others, the aliens, we who have met them saw ourselves, and there were demons there." So Majestic 12, there were demons there. That, my friend, is scary. Having worked with so many decent, honest, positive-oriented abductees, however, I believe this theory is wrong. It is worse than wrong. It's despicable as blaming a victim for a violence committed against them. This attitude leaves many abductees feeling undoubtedly violated, first by the aliens who took them, and then by the UFO researchers to whom they turn for explanations for help. But it's easy to understand why such a theory would be popular. Humans have a deep need to believe in the power of God, power of good. We need for the aliens to be good force. Since we feel so helpless in their presence. And we need for some superior force to offer us hope for salvation, both personally and globally. When we consider the sorry state of the world, I think these creatures or aliens know all about this. So, I don't know. Once again, I disagreed with her on something else, but not a lot of things. But, what he's saying is, are they spiritual? Stryber is saying, no, these things are not spiritual, enlightened. These things are not. She's talking about the abductees. She's not talking about the aliens. So maybe she misunderstood. But Stryber is saying, in the eyes of the others, the aliens, we who met them saw ourselves, and there were demons there. That makes a lot of sense. You just, that's not saying, hey, the abductees are demons. No, what it's saying is we've seen them, we see ourselves in them a little bit, but we also see demons. You got to think, my own personal belief on this, and I was talking to the same person that I talked to earlier today about how I wanted to do kind of broaden the horizons on things. We're talking about the Anunnaki. Now, some, myself included, have read, and many of you, that these Anunnaki look like reptilians. Some, when reading the book of Enoch, those who have read it know exactly what I'm going to say. These angels that fell from God's grace, the fallen angels, I hate that term, the fallen angels. Yes, they fell from God's grace. But people, when they hear a fallen angel, they think, oh, they fell from heaven. No, they didn't. They were down here for a reason, and then they fell from God's grace. I apologize for that. I had a zillion things going through my head at once. So the Anunnaki and the fallen angels that fell from God's grace. Now, they have been depicted as reptilian, right? But here's my thing. If these angels that fell from God's grace, if God created them just like he created man, God created man in the image of himself, right? So why wouldn't there be a little piece of himself in them? So then when they fell from his grace, they then became demonic. So then when the abductee saw these creatures eye to eye, he would see just that little piece of himself in them. It could be, I mean, to me, that makes a little more sense of this. The Stryber, though, Whitley Stryber comments on a reputed video of a military interrogation of a reptilian gray alien at Area 51. Stryber showed extreme rage and stated in essence that he was astonished that one of these creatures could be in such a situation. Interrogated one of the most evil, and that the interrogation was one of the most evil acts in humanity. Stryber relate time to time, again in his writings, an absolute stark terror and evil he encountered in relation to these aliens. Having worked with so many decent, honest people, I feel like this is wrong. Okay. Benevolent kidnapping. Benevolent. So not malevolent, but benevolent. Not all abduction reports are filled with frightening and painful events, of course. Many people say that their encounters felt benevolent, that their abductors by the aliens treated them kindly, or at least with a scientific detachment. Some abductees recall being told that they were special, that they were chosen, and that they have an important task to perform for the benefit of humanity. Given such a positive message, the abductees may ignore fear and the pain of their encounters and insist to themselves that and to others that a higher motive underlies the abduction experience. In some cases, all that an abductee remembers is a benevolent encounter, and so has no reason to assume any negative actions occurred. Well, that could also be, here's something on that too. She states that, and I believe the theory too, and I've talked about it, like the psychic vampire. That's nothing new. I actually talked about that a couple years ago, long before I started deep diving in this. But because I did an upload about the University of Hawaii thesis, and I read part of it to you guys. But if these creatures can feed on our energies and produce or make our minds believe we are seeing something other than what is there, can't they then, therefore, make our mind believe that it's a benevolent kidnapping by an alien race? Sure. I don't believe that these things are hey, I'm going to take you up to planet Zeta and do nothing wrong. No, these things are monsters. They're demons. But, this is her theory through her research. So I accept it and take it, and I put it in a basket, because later I might want to use it again for my own research, for my own theories. This is one of her strangest reports that she ever had gotten. And I've actually shared this experience because it's terrifying. It is a terrifying experience. A man in his late 40s came to us to explore several alien-related events that were in his life. And in the interview, he told of a strange, although not apparently alien-oriented episode that had haunted him since childhood. When he was 10 years old, his grandmother came to visit him in his home, and since the house was small, she shared his bed on the first night of her visit. During the night, the boy was awakened by a loud male voice. He could not understand what the voice was saying, but it sounded angry and was addressing the grandmother lying beside him. The next morning, he asked his grandmother, "What was that voice in the bedroom last night?" His grandmother, with tears in her eyes, pulled him tightly to her and said, "That was the devil." She said nothing more about the episode, but she did insist that her son take her back to her own home immediately. It was an unreasonable request, and her son tried to talk her out of it, but the grandmother was adamant. And finally the son agreed to take her home the following day. The entire family made the trip over 100 miles back to his grandmother's farm, and within an hour of their arrival, the grandmother suffered a massive stroke and passed. Ever since that event, the man had felt a heavy burden of guilt associated with his grandmother's death. Yet, there was no conscious reason for him to have felt that way. The entire event was poignant and mystifying, but in all the alien encounters he had subsequently undergone, he had felt that the aliens were his friends and were helping him expand his psychic abilities. This is more on the psychic vampire. This is more of those questions. Carla. Yes, now we are getting to why may be the crux of the harvest. That may be that they not only need emotional energy, but also at least one faction. And I would be tempted, if I were to guess, that they would be reptoids. Actually, yes, use physical bodies. They are trying hard to get us detached from our bodies by telling us they are containers. Why? Because they eat our bodies. If a cow knew you were going to eat it, you wouldn't want to tell the cow, if they could understand your body is not important, it does not matter. In response to the question about a spiritual nature of greys and reptilians, I think it's something to think about. I don't believe the greys have souls, but are more like Frankensteins or zombies, or whatever term you want to use for the living dead. When I have been with them, I have had an overwhelming feeling that they are not alive, that they are dead. Val Valerian puts it this way. Val Valerian was a supposed alien who interjected himself in the United States government and such like that. That they have an anti-life field. So they are alive, and they are not. And I do not agree with that whole that they are zombified. No, they are just a tool for the Draco. You know, Draco would be one of the most powerful alien life forms out there, supposedly. Especially if they're demonic, you know. The gray would be like its helper, like a Willy Wonka and the fucking Munchkins, you know. So I do believe but I don't believe they have souls. So maybe that's why she got that dead feeling. Anything without a soul is a dead, almost gives a dead feeling, right? And mind you, I respect all of this person's research. I respect all of Dr. Carla's research. And like I said, I'm going to keep things that I do not agree with and put it in my storage box for when I may agree with it later. But I think just from my research alone, I do believe that, you know, and it wouldn't be research if we agreed with everything that we heard. Once again, that would be being an armchair researcher and buying every AI real story we hear. Greg Little has added the following in regards to Carla Turner's experiences. Carla told of walking into her home at night. When being grabbed hold of her arm, the creature told her it was her mother. But Carla stated that it looked like a giant grasshopper. Another time, Carla was coming home through her backyard when she felt like she had been hit by an electrical fence. I wasn't feeling right. I wasn't moving right. There was a glow everywhere. I stopped and I saw 4 gray beings standing side by side in my backyard. I assumed I was having a hallucination, but I'm awake. Why? I felt I could see through them, and they talked to me telepathically. Greetings, we are your ancestors, they said. We are part of you, but we are real. We couldn't move as I normally do. I couldn't move as I normally do, Carlos states. Then 2 females behind me came up close. They started to buzz. They are giving you some instructions, they told me. Carla and her husband have become involved in a variety of MUFON investigations, and they've become investigators for MUFON. Investigators since uncovering their memories as well as conducting a variety of their own investigations. They have somewhat specialized in cases of SA by aliens that have been influenced in popular books such as Intruders, Missing Time, and others. The modern aliens associated with SA now appear to fall into the 3 broad categories. The traditional greys are nearly always present. Male greys seldom engage in, but some female greys do. The greys often connect bizarre devices to the body parts of the abductees. Then there are more sinister creatures described as reptilian, grasshopper-like, mantis-like, and mammalian-like. These creatures whose organs are described as ice cold. And then it just goes into more of the essay stuff. But there's some other interesting stuff too right here. We'll share this with you guys right now. All right, so I'm just kind of wanted to talk about something really quick. Now, there's this thing called, or a race, Merovingians, 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati. And that bloodline, these creatures were supposedly the beginning of that 13, the Illuminati's 13 families. Supposedly these Merovingians were an alien race or a demonic creatures, 13 of them, and each responsible for the Astor, the Bundy, the Collins, DuPont, Freeman, Kennedy, the Lee, the Onassis, the Reynolds, the Rockefeller, the Rothschild, the Russell, and the Van Dunn families. Now, the Merovingian are technically European royal families. Now, obviously, these families are older than, pretty much they are the ruling class, not even a 1%, the 0.5%, so, but these Merovingians were supposed creatures, 4-legged creatures, demonic creatures. That's scary. And we've seen like these European bloodline, the royal family. We've all seen they shapeshift. Here's something. What if Princess Diana, and this is just going, what if she uncovered that old Chip, or King Chip himself, King Charles, was a reptilian. She was unaware of it, heard the rumors, and found out, boom, one day she comes in and there's old Chip in complete reptilian form. Maybe that's why she was taken out. Who knows? But we can see the connections. We can see the connections. They are here. They are deep. There's a reason why Hitler, when he was doing his evil, was obsessed with the alchemy and other kinds of magic and power. So it's all just really scary. And that just leads me back to I know y'all hate this book. You probably hate it by now, but Them and Us, Danny Van Drimeny, and how he explains. I thought it was kind of interesting how Dr. Carla had said that the scientists, or researchers, the researchers were senseless Neanderthal. Yeah, the title of this book, Them and Us, How Neanderthal Predation Created Modern Human. I thought that's kind of interesting and kind of funny book, because how Danny Van Drimeny describes them just like the cryptids that we are fascinated with on a daily basis. An animalistic muzzle, very strong consumption of meat, hunts humans at night, eyes that can see in the dark, that glow, just more and more, it's and then he looks at why has every culture since time immemorial had a story or diagram of these creatures. Well, because they're real. Because this is real. And I think the more we know about it, the safer we might be. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know. It's very interesting, though. And I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing this with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. With that being said, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. Keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions. Never stop searching for the truth. And God bless you all.